YouTube. You can now also find every episode uploaded to Spotify and Apple Podcasts immediately after each live episode. Tonight, I'm joined by Will, and we'll be breaking down the series loss to the Padres and all the early season disappointments for the 2-7 Boston Red Sox. Will, how are you doing today?
You know, after going to 2 games this series in person, it was just, I don't know. Friday got my hopes up. Great win, opening day. 1986 team walked onto the field. Like, everything was great. Our offense showed up. Pitching was there. We'll dive into that too. And the vibes were great. Maybe the Sox turned it around. And then Saturday and Sunday, just cold and rainy. And I could not find a better analogy to describe the team's performance overall than the weather, right? So it just overall miserable series. But I don't know where we go from here.
I know everyone's saying it's still early, but 2-7 is absolutely horrendous. And we have the worst record in baseball. And we already 5 games back, coming on 6 games back in the division. It's hard to make up that deficit no matter how many games are left. When you have that many good teams ahead of you, it's hard. So you need to make up some ground, and you need to do it quickly. I'm not saying like the season's over or anything, but 2-7 is horrendous. And what do you need to go like 14-8 to get back to like 500 this month? That is hard to do. You have a big hill to climb. And I'm just saying, if the Red Sox need to get out of this quickly, and it's not getting any easier with the Milwaukee Brewers coming into town after this, but we could start with game 1. You were there. If you want to give like a little bit of background on how it went, give us like the vibes, how the fans reacted to the awful start on the road trip. Just give us a little background on how Friday went.
Absolutely, yeah. Opening day, man. It's a national holiday, at least in my calendar, as is with many other Red Sox fans. The vibes were there. Coming off of that horrible start to the season, the 1-5. Obviously not what we want to start, not even close to. And I thought the vibes were gonna be a lot worse, and surprisingly, it just felt like there was like hope and people were excited. And again, I mentioned 1986, the players coming out for the monster, and the whole charade of opening day. No flyover was disappointing. I do want to harp on that real quick. That was super, not great to not see. But anyway, we came in, big sense. Also, too, I keep harping back to this analogy of the weather real quick. Opening day, rainy, stormy in the morning, and then right as first pitch happened, right as Sonny Gray took the mound, the sun clear, the clouds clear, the sun beams down, and it's opening day, man. Baseball's back in Boston. It was the move. It was the move. And the Red Sox play like that too. And you could tell the energy was there. We actually put bat on ball. Mayer went deep. Contreras hit an absolute laser onto the monster. It was just, the vibes were there, and it was a clean game. It's exactly the kind of baseball that we were hoping to then, bounce back from. There's a good jumping block. Everyone was saying for the first 2 road series, just wait till we get back to Fenway. Maybe that's what this team needs, Fenway energy. It was there, and it was there for game 1, but obviously that didn't work. But and also too, I will say those little mini coolers. I don't know if you guys have been seeing on Twitter, the little mini coolers. People seemed almost more hyped for those than the actual Sox itself. But whatever you have to do, whether it's the lobster poutine, the $40 lobster poutine, or these mini coolers or whatever, the ballpark was bumping on Friday, and it was a great thing to see. And it was just a great game, great weather. I was there with my dad. It was unbelievable. But too bad that didn't carry over to Saturday or Sunday.
I'm also a big fan of those little mini coolers. I'd love to have one. But Friday, I think we got the second best start of the season by a Red Sox starting pitcher in Sonny Gray. He went 6 innings, 4 hits, 3 Ks, which is not that much, but and 2 earned runs. But he was really it was a ball over Ceddanne Rafaela's head that should have been caught that led to both of those runs. So it really should have been 6 shutout innings, maybe 7. If he had the chance to go that 7th inning, but he pitched very well that day. And I was very happy to see Sonny Gray bounce back from a tough first outing on opening game 2 in Cincinnati. So how did you think about Sonny Gray's outing? I was really impressed on TV, but how did it look in person? He was really efficient. It was perfect.
Yeah, and yes, everything is advertised. And he mentioned too, I liked how he said afterward, that was his first win at Fenway. I believe he was 0-4 at Fenway beforehand. And he mentioned it was like, thankfully, it was in a Red Sox jersey winning at Fenway for his first win. And so that was really cool. Overall, though, he was dealing. It was great. That's the kind of thing you want to see from a number 2, number 3. We will get into Suarez's performance as a number 2 soon tonight, but at least from a middle of a starting rotation kind of guy, that's exactly what I wanted to see from Sonny Gray. He was dealing, and like you mentioned too, that was just one San Rafaela misplay from having a much better line that actually was a little bit more of an accurate representation of his afternoon.
No, I completely agree. Offensively, I was very happy to see Marcelo Meyer get that home run off a lefty. I was happy to see him stay in that situation against the lefty. Alex Cora made some weird comments after the game about saying if it was a little bit of a different situation, he would have gone to Monasterio in that situation. I just think you should just congratulate your player. You're young. He's not even a rookie anymore, but you're pretty much a rookie player on hitting a home run off a lefty in a big pivotal spot that helped you win the baseball game instead of making some comments like that. I just think coming off a big win, you needed a win. You don't make negative comments with your manager against your manager shouldn't make negative comments to a young player coming off a really big win, especially when you need to keep winning. And the Red Sox obviously didn't win the next 2 games after that. Do you have any comments on that? Because I think that was a big thing. That's one of the things I wrote down to harp on today. I just wanted to see what you think about that.
Yeah, that really pushed me the wrong way. Here we are again. Like I mentioned, the vibes are there. I do want to mention too, Xander Bogaerts' first game back at Fenway. He did come with the Padres in 2024, but he was hurt. This is his first game playing back at Fenway as a member of the Padres. And then the standing ovation was great. Now, the post-game interview with Cora, it felt like he spent more time acknowledging the fans for giving Bogaerts a standing ovation. And he was like, hat tip and all this stuff. When in reality, then he went on to the Marcelo Meyer question and mentioned like, yeah, that was great and everything. But, if there wasn't guys, if there was guys on second and third, we would have pinch hit for Marcelo Meyer. How about you harp on actual game performance and what some, like you mentioned, a younger talent on your team. How about you harp on his improvements and how he is proving himself on a major league roster versus talking about how the fans acknowledge a player that is no longer on the Red Sox, right? That rubbed me the wrong way. You could say hat tip to the fans for the Xander Bogaerts standing ovation, rightfully deserved, but Meyer needs to be credited more with his home run there. I mean, that was his answer was complete like word salad. You come into the season and say he has to prove himself versus right-handed hitter, and then we'll start seeing him against lefties. And here he is, game 1 at home, right? Game 6 of the season. I'm sorry, game 7 of the season, hitting a homer off of a lefty. Exactly what Cora and this front office told him to prove himself to do. And he did. And yet it wasn't good enough. It seemed like it wasn't good enough. He could have hit a 5-run grand slam and it still wouldn't have been good enough. That's what it felt like from Cora. Just not what I wanted to hear. And Brent just mentioned here on Twitter, he's giving Meyer the rookie treatment. Right now, Meyer, at least in my opinion, is one of the few bright spots of this team offensively in terms of consistency. You need to be giving him a little bit more, thumbs up there, a lot more positive energy, especially after you win at home on opening day.
If we're talking about the whole series as a whole, Marcelo Meyer was a bright spot defensively and offensively. Not just the home run in that game 1 or in Friday. He had a double as well. He had a couple of big defensive plays. He had a good tag today. Marcelo Meyer is a guy that I'd like to see even move up in the order to like 6. I think this is the guy that needs to be in the lineup every single day. He's not one of the issues at the moment. He's one of the better hitters on the team. And I'd love to see him at shortstop. I think that'll be something we bring up later in the show about Trevor Story and his issues, and Marcelo Meyer should be playing shortstop. But he was one of the bright spots this series in a series full of down and disappointments. So Marcelo Meyer is not a guy that we'll be talking crap on or down on today. I'm very impressed with how he's playing. I wish Cora would give him a little bit more respect and play him, give him a little bit better, not more respect, but just, I wish he would start him every game, treat him like an everyday player, and not make those comments after he hits a home run in a pivotal spot. It's low key shows that he doesn't care about the player. He's never really loved the player, I feel like. And how do you want this guy to get better and succeed if you're just going to shit on him after? I'm not saying he shit on him, but you should hype him up after he did exactly like what you brought up. He hit a home run off a lefty. He did exactly what you told him he needs to work on. And then you go on and you shit on him after that. That's just not a good precedent to give your young players like Marcelo Meyer, especially a guy you drafted 4th overall. And you kind of marked him as a savior of the franchise a few years ago.
Yeah, I mean, and I mentioned this in our, I believe, preseason episode too. The duality of Alex Cora's managing styles between someone like Christian Campbell, for example, where it's very, soft and babying. Of if Christian Campbell hit that home run today, right? Let's just swap the two players for a second, right? Coming into the season, got to prove himself. It's a home run against a lefty. I feel like Cora's answer would have been like, "Wow, what a great job!" And this, he worked so hard on this, and would have been a completely different answer than what he said about Marcelo Mayer, for game the home opener homer. So it was just definitely the wrong tone, and like I said too, it almost rained in the parade a little bit of an opening day win like that.
Yeah, I completely agree. Do you have anything else on game one? I know game one was the positive, the win. You were there. Do you want to point anything out that we couldn't see on TV that only you could see in person? I know you had some really cool seats. Just anything from opening day that you'll never see again, you want to point out on this podcast, you want to tell everybody watching that I didn't even know, just something cool about that game specifically. Anything?
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm always a fan of the player introductions and whatnot, and you always forget how large of a human being Crochet is. And Chapman, they were making they were making the police officer the dugout looking like an absolute child. It was really cool, like in comparison. That's always cool. I do want to harp on, obviously, Manny Machado getting booed like crazy, as rightfully deserved. Pedroia was on Hall of Fame track. That's a separate episode, separate conversation. But Machado was getting rightfully booed, and that was great to see the fans still in it, fans still understand it. Hopefully, and I did mention already, but Bogaerts, man, seeing him back at shortstop at Fenway, it brought back some memories, man. It was, I don't want to say any tears were shed, but it was one of those moments of like, wow, that used to be us. That used to be our shortstop, right? And Xander's a class act. So many times it was cool to see him on base, whether, today even he had, a double, and, he would dap up, Story and Mayer, and just like his like small little interactions in between innings, or, like when the camera might be panned away on a broadcast that you see live, and you see Xander and his relationship with a lot of these Red Sox players. And, even like Mayer, for example, right? Obviously Mayer and Bogaerts never shared a locker room in the majors, but they knew each other from camp and after Mayer was drafted. And you kind of just see that relationship that Bogaerts had with these players. It's not just a one and done, like, oh yeah, he used to be on the Red Sox, but his personal relationship with all these players too. It goes a lot farther than just the baseball diamond. But seeing him play at short again, that was something.
Do you want to have the Trevor Story conversation right now? Because we're talking about Xander Bogaerts, and it's really tough to say that we haven't had a true everyday shortstop that makes the plays since Xander Bogaerts left. I know we had a good season from Trevor Story last year, but we're having the same conversations right now that we did last season in May with Trevor Story. It's started off awful defensively and offensively. He's hitting in the 2-hole, which is a little bit unfair for him. He should never be put in that position to begin with. The Red Sox didn't get that right-handed hitter that they absolutely needed to do in this offseason. But Trevor Story needs to perform better, even if he is in the 2-hole or if he's in the 6-hole. He needs to perform better offensively, and he needs to perform better defensively. Do you have any thoughts on that? I think we should just have the conversation now.
I almost like, I don't even want to have the conversation, because the reality is he's just going to stay at short, and we know what Cora's going to do, and keep him in the 2-hole, and he can go another series and go 2 for 12 or something. I had him at 1 for 13 for the series, which is abysmal for your number 2 hitter and your shortstop, frankly, right? He's supposed to be that veteran presence on the bench and in the locker room, and he just looks lost. I mean, he looks lost. It's not, obviously cards are stacked against you when you're going against Mason Miller in 2 games in the 9th inning, but both of Story's at bats against Miller, it looked like he was guessing, and he was guessing wrong every single time on every single pitch. That's him offensively. Defensively too, even his error today, it just set that tone of like, this is where this is like where our expectations are, right? It's like on a simple grounder to short. It's not like he was ranging to his left or going to the outfield and making some jump throw like we were seeing Cronenworth do a bunch during the series. By the way, Cronenworth, man, obviously second baseman, different side of infield. Cronenworth was making some crazy defensive plays where I'm like, obviously Trevor Story being a shortstop, but I'm like, that's Trevor Story's range. That's like Trevor Story's athleticism in his prime. And it was that harsh reminder of what we don't have anymore with Trevor Story. The number 2 spot too, I do want to mention too, Alex Cora mentioned after the game, I believe his words were when asked about keeping Trevor Story in the 2 hole, and Alex Cora's words were, I still like him as a baseball player. What further evidence do you need, AC? What further evidence? It's crazy. It's crazy. Game 2, what was it, game 2? Yeah, I'll let you go and then I'll finish.
What does that mean? I still like him as a baseball player. I can still like him as a baseball player and want him at 8th on my baseball team. When you go 1 for 13 with like 4 or 5 strikeouts this series, and you're letting fastballs right down the middle in 0-1, 0-0 counts, in good hitters counts go right down the middle, and then you're swinging at sweepers and sliders in the dirt that are way out of the zone, and in hitters counts, and it's just you're putting up pathetic at bats, and you're hitting 2 behind Roman Anthony, your young stud who you're trying to protect, and it's just, why can't you make some sort of lineup adjustment or give him the day off? The comment here from Ken Santos is, you gave IKF $6 million. You haven't seen him since. Why not let IKF? I know we've talked about IKF and we don't want to see him out there, but right now I do want to see him out there. I think he can catch the ball, hit right at him. We've seen Trevor Story make a bunch of bad plays, whether he misses the ball completely or he has a terrible throw. He had one today early on where it was a terrible throw. It was just, he needs to have some sort of reset mentally. He needs to get back to how he got in June last year. It took him 2 months last year. It cannot take him 2 months this year. If it does, the Red Sox are screwed. They don't have enough offensively to make up for him being a horrible offensive player and a horrible defensive player for 2 to 3 months like he was last year.
Absolutely. And twice in game 2, Trevor Story's at the plate with the tying run 90 feet away at third, and he just put up a miserable K. Actually, I'm sorry, the first time it might not have been a strikeout, but either way, he got out both times without being able to score that run, and that is abysmal from your number 2 hitter. That's just crazy. That's just crazy. And the definition of insanity is doing the same thing multiple times in a row and expecting different results. It's getting to the point now where it is insane. It is actually insane to keep putting Trevor Story in the 2 hole or anywhere above the 5 slot. Honest to God, with how he's performing right now, it's just embarrassing. And I will say too, tying it back to our previous topic of Mayer, with how well Mayer's playing, one could argue that IKF is not needed as much. I don't know if needed is the right word, but his platoon with Mayer, if Story is struggling as much as he is on both sides of the ball here to start the season, and with how well Mayer is playing, why don't you take IKF off that platoon and move him over to short and give Story a rest, move him to DH, right? Get his mind thinking a little bit different. Even if his day consists of a different routine or something, sitting, DHing, I don't care. Stop having this number 2 slot in the shortstop. It reminds me of Volpe last year. It really does, where it's just like, no, we believe in him, and continues to be damaging to the wrong team in a baseball game. It's crazy. You can also see that at the plate too. I don't know if you guys could see it on TV as well as we can see it in person. He just looks completely lost. He looks like he's guessing wrong and just whiffing on everything. It's worrisome. It's worrisome. I love Trevor Story as a person and as a player overall, but man, is he not proving himself so far to start this season? And we saw it last year with that shoulder. And it's like this year, is it the same shoulder issue? Is it that ligament tissue in the shoulder? We'll see. But man, Alex Cora, get off your pedestal, stop trying to be correct about everything, and just move the guy.
Yeah, we'll get into Trevor Story probably more later, but let's get into game 2. The 3-2 loss to the Padres, where this game was started by Connolly Early and Randy Vasquez. We can get into Connolly Early a little bit. In my opinion, I think it was the worst start of his his Major League Baseball career. And if this is his worst start, that is saying something about him. He went 4 innings. He only gave up 3 hits and 2 runs, but he walked 4. His command was bad all day. A big note I had, his changeup was his most thrown pitch, which is a little bit different than normal. That just shows he didn't have the command of the fastball that he normally has. He was fighting all day, but he kept the damage down, and I was very impressed with what he did. Do you have any comments on Connolly early? I know he kept the team in the game. He wasn't that sharp, but I was very happy with what he did against a pretty decent offense. I don't think they're as elite as they used to be. I think they're a middle of the road team at the moment. They're probably a better, or they're slumping just as bad as the Red Sox, but they have some talented players on this team. They have some superstars at the top. But what did you think about Connolly early on Saturday?
Yeah, I liked him. You kind of harped on the idea that Padres are not what they used to be. They still have a lot of powerful hitters that can pop off at any moment. Connolly early, I think the difference between a rookie, a pitcher of his age that comes in and still tries to prove himself, of a mid caliber starter to a more of a front of the line, not calling him elite, but that what separates the two is the ability to set those kind of guys down, right? Anytime you're facing Machado, anytime you're facing, even Bogarts too, Jackson Merrill, right? They have the ability to pop off if you're not pitching. And yes, Connolly early stuff was not there. He couldn't locate his pitches, which was unfortunate to see, but his stuff still looked pretty good. And more than not, his mentality and his presence on the mound was still calm, cool, and collected. And I still love to see that. There's a lot of, and again, I'm not comparing him to Crochet by any means, but we see how often and we hear about it all the time about how Crochet and Connolly early work so closely off the field together. They're both lefties, they're both starters, right? And I believe they worked in the offseason together as well. But both of them have credited each other with helping each other out in terms of their approach. And you can see a lot of that there too. You can see kind of like Crochet with his second start of the season. He didn't have it. He didn't have his elite Cy Young caliber stuff, but he's still able to do work. And I felt the same way about Connolly early now. Again, obviously a lot to improve on. His velocity was down across the board. But overall, if that's the worst that we'll see from him, sign me up all day.
What Brent brought up here, I believe early had a tough time gripping the baseball, and I believe Cora mentioned that as well. It was cold. You brought up the weather earlier on in the show. It was very cold all weekend long. It definitely had an impact on him gripping the baseball. I'm not worried about Connolly early going forward. I think if this is the worst you're going to get from Connolly early, you're going to expect very great things from him as he matures and becomes a pitcher in this league going forward. But I'm not going to say I was impressed with how he battled, but it was a good start with what he had. He couldn't locate his fastball, and he got by with his changeup, leading the way with his changeup. I think he had 29% usage with his changeup, and his fastball is at like 26, 27%. I don't have those exact numbers, but when I made the graphic a few days ago, I remember those. So I think that's what it was. The whiffs and the swings and miss were still up there like he's always had. So I'm not worried about him. I think once we get into the hotter days, the hotter weather days, he'll be out there dominating again like we have seen in the past. So Connolly early was, I'm not going to say a bright spot in today's game, but with what he showed, I was happy. So we can get into the rest of the game. What I didn't like was the offense against Randy Vasquez. He's a guy that I didn't think we should have swung and missed against that many times. I didn't think we should have let him finish 6 strong innings, especially with this bullpen. You have to make him work a little bit longer and get him out before 6 innings. That was like one thing we brought up when we were breaking down this series before it even started is this is one of the best bullpens ever assembled. You need to get your starters out of there before they get to this elite back end of the bullpen. And that little elite back end of the bullpen kind of shut us down in these last 2 games. So do you have anything on the offense in Saturday's game?
Coming into the season, we were promised that pitching and defense were going to basically lead us to wins. And that's really hard to do when you're scoring 0 and 1 run against, like you mentioned, not no-name starters, but, not elite level starting pitching, right? And the inability to score runs, if I'm Connolly early going out there, I don't have my best stuff, and I know that my team isn't scoring runs for me. I'm not getting any run support. It's like that has to play something in the head a little bit too. But again, not an excuse. It was just abysmal to see. I do want to harp on Chapman a little bit because people will be quick to blame him for the loss there, in later in the game. I'm not worried about him at all. We mentioned this in the past. He's not going to be what he was last year. He's not going to be that elite all-star caliber, like Cy Young voting, almost getting, a closer, but even like a step back from him for his level, we should be seeing solid shutdown performances. I was telling Nick before we went live here, that ball that I believe it was Tatis who hit that ball against Chapman over Cedon's head, that had a 65% catch probability. I don't believe that for a second. That thing was rocketed off the bat. And then it was just one of those things too, where it's like, look, if your offense isn't clicking, 1 or 2 runs is not going to do it. Again, especially against a Padres lineup. We saw exactly that when Tatis came up against Chapman. It was a really, on paper, a cool matchup, right? Obviously with Mason Miller versus Chapman there in the 9th plus, and then Tatis versus Chapman. That's just one of those cool matchups that every baseball fan wants to see. But we just saw Tatis just battle it back and battle back to win it. Not much to harp on there.
Yeah, I agree with you on there. I do want to dial it back one more inning. I want to talk about the 8th inning where the Red Sox tied it up. A few things that we could talk about there. One is the Trevor Story at bat, which was awful. And the other was the pinch hit for Jarren Duran. If you remember, was it runners on second and third? It was Roman Anthony on base for sure. And was it Rafael on base, I think, as well? And then Trevor Story struck out. And then they pinch hit for Jarren Duran for Monasterio. Monasterio had a great at bat. But the one thing I do want to bring up is we said it as it was happening, was with Jarren Duran in that situation, it takes you out of a guaranteed note. I mean, it puts you in a spot where you're almost guaranteed to not ground into a double play because of Jarren Duran's speed. If Jarren Duran hits the ball on the ground, you're going to tie the game with the runner on third base, and he's going to be fast enough that he's going to get to first base, and it's going to be a fielder's choice. Now, I do understand he didn't want Jarren Duran to face a lefty in that spot, but he's been hitting lefties well, I guess, in spring training. He hasn't been great to start the season, but he's the more accomplished player than Monasterio. Do you have any thoughts on that? I guess it worked out, but it only worked out because Cronenworth dropped the ball on the double play. He only got the one out. It would have been out of the inning. It would have been a double play, and we would have lost before the Chapman outing. So I think that's something we should talk about, because I think it was a weird pinch hit for Jarren Duran, who is your 3-hole hitter, especially with a guy like Monasterio, who's not an accomplished, established name in the league. It's something I think we should bring up and talk about a little bit.
Absolutely. I think that was one of those moments. I'm like, I think I mentioned in the group text too, but I was like, it seemed like a very forced substitution. It was almost like Alex Cora going out there and being like, all right, Andrew, or Mona, as he calls him, Mona, like, go prove yourself. We don't need to pinch hit here, but because I'm Alex Cora, I'm going to do it, right? Whether Duran's on base, again, if Duran hit that same ball and Cronenworth fields it cleanly, that's still a double play. I don't think that would be a huge factor personally. I want to bring up the point that if you are going to pinch hit, how about you pinch hit IKF, who actually, I believe he had 5 or 6 at-bats already against that pitcher in his career too. Monasterio didn't have any prior to that game, and then I think Jarren Duran had all of 1. So if you're going to bring in a pinch hitter and as literally just for that one at bat, no defensive substitution, right? Why don't you bring in the guy with more experience against that pitcher? I don't know. Just a thought. It seemed very forced. Ultimately, we saw what happened, and there I was giving Cronenworth his hype over his defense, and he drops that ball. To be fair, it's kind of a weird throw from the pitcher. Either way, it seemed really forced. I would have been really happy with Duran, as is in that situation. No problem.
Another thing that happened in that 9th inning, I don't think it was an issue this time, was the Roman Anthony throw. Even Alex Cora made comments after the game and said he didn't have an issue with it. He thought it was a good enough throw. But we still haven't seen him start a game in the outfield this series, or the last series against the Padres. He only has made appearances as coming in as a defensive replacement when Alex Cora lost his DH on Saturday. Do you have anything on that? Why is he still not out there? Is it just Jarren Duran in front of the wall? Is it because Alex Cora actually doesn't think that Roman Anthony is that good of an outfielder? He had great metrics out in right field last year. Why is he not good this year?
I think right field you actually have a real argument for. Left field gets a little tricky with the monster and how it ricochets off and yada yada yada. I think obviously we saw Yoshida today in left field, and from my memory he didn't get anything too crazy hit to him. But going back to Roman Anthony, Cora mentioned his footwork. He mentioned his arm and his footwork for left field in terms of the field. I find that so hard to believe. If JetBlue Park, the spring training park that Red Sox play at, didn't have a green monster, maybe I'd buy it, and maybe he just needs more time with the monster. That's literally why they installed a replica of the green monster at JetBlue Park, is for players to be able to get that experience beforehand. This is not Roman Anthony's first time in the outfield. This is not Roman Anthony's first time in left field with the monster or not with the monster. To blame it on footwork, man, we're in the first week of April. What has he been? This is almost a harp on the coaching and the game plan more than Roman. If you're going to blame Roman, like, you have to come up with something better than footwork. How have you not been working on that for the last 2 months? And he's a professional athlete. He's 21. You're telling me if you don't tell him, hey, maybe on this, turn the other way, or move your foot this way or that way, you wouldn't do it. I find that really hard to believe that that's the reason that Cora wants to pin on Roman not playing left field more. And ultimately, it was a good throw. I think the one thing that I found hard to find with that, in terms of that throw home, was Chapman not backing up home plate. He was just standing there, and he allowed the runner to go to third base. Ultimately, it didn't really matter too much. He was stranded at third base, but I'm like, that seems pretty. That's a pretty obvious backup for a guy who's been in the league for that long too. That was a little bit more of a red flag than the Roman Anthony throw. I thought the Roman Anthony throw was fine.
Honestly, watching it live, I thought Tatis got an incredible jump around third base and off of second base. And I thought it was going to be a much closer play, even if it wasn't a good throw. I thought Roman was going to have a great play or a great chance to throw him out at home. And I even thought off the bat, there was a chance they were going to hold him up at third base. I'm going to give a lot of credit of this specific play to the base runner. And that's it. But I do think we're going to get into Sunday now in today's game. I think it's really telling that Masataka Yoshida started over Roman Anthony in left field today. I think that is weird. And obviously, there's no one on the earth that can tell me that Masataka Yoshida is a better left fielder than Roman Anthony. I don't care how Roman Anthony's throws looked a few days ago and earlier this week. Masataka Yoshida doesn't have the range. He doesn't have the arm strength that Roman Anthony has. Even when Roman Anthony has this noodle arm that a lot of people are saying lately, a lot of it's Yankee fans. A lot of it is really negative Red Sox fans. But there's no one in their right mind that could tell me that Masataka Yoshida deserves to play outfield over Roman Anthony. I don't know why he's out there. Any thoughts on that? And then we'll get into today's game.
Yeah, I'm fully with you on that. We harped on a previous episode too. I'm all for like Yoshida like testing out the waters in the outfield, hopefully get his value up before the trade deadline. Fingers crossed. But again, do it in these parks where they really shallow left field. Do it in Houston. Do it in Fenway. That's fine. But again, if we drop game 2 in a somewhat miserable fashion and I want to win today, I'm not putting Yoshida in left field, right? In a must-win kind of energy vibe kind of game, putting Roman out there in left field is the move. I'm not 100% sure why Yoshida was out there, but I mean, is it to prove a point? Is it to prove his value? We'll see. Thankfully, Yoshida had an incredible day at the plate, which I know we'll get into here in game 3. But in terms of his defense, hasn't proven anything yet, but we'll see.
Yeah, we'll get in today's game. The offense finally broke out. It was the pitching that let us down today. It was started off with Jarren Duran got it started with a double down the line. He pulled it, drove in 2 runs, and then Masataka Yoshida and Willy Abreu had amazing games today. Willy Abreu had a single, double, and triple, was a home run away from the cycle. I know he's the only hitter that's really started off as hot as ever. He's done that the last few seasons. I'm very happy with his production lately. Do you have anything on the offense? I know they finally broke out. Unfortunately, it didn't result in a win. If the Red Sox score 6 runs with the roster they put together and everything they've hyped and preached about going into this season, they should win games if they score 6 runs. I'm disappointed on that. But do you have anything you want to hype or touch on this offense? I know you were there. Anything that we might not have seen as fans on TV? Any thoughts? Go ahead, Will.
In terms of offense, it seems like a clear split between the guys that we're constantly mentioning, right? Abreu, Yoshida, Mayer. These guys are constantly producing with the bat. And then there's like 6 feet of crap, and then there's everyone else, right? And we've been saying this all series and all season and whatnot, but there is like this clear divide. And it almost seems that there's like it really feels at the ballpark. There feels like there's no structure to the lineup whatsoever, right? I'm constantly looking and I'm like, oh, like Navarez is up. I'm constantly turning my head to the right field scoreboard and be like, all right, where is he batting today? Right. I still remember the glory days of like, oh, Ortiz is up. Oh, he's batting 3, maybe 4. Right. It's like you knew where they were in the lineup and what to expect afterward. Right. This almost just seems like a real cluster, like jumble of like, all right, who's going to play where in terms of the lineup in respect to their halves, right? Trevor Story, Duran, Roman, they're all number, like in the top in the first half of the lineup, and then you have your second half. I wanted to bring up the fact, and I can't believe I'm mentioning this somewhere that it's recorded. Why was Connor Wong not seeing any at bats this series? Right? I'm not saying that Navarez was bad or anything like that. Connor Wong's been swinging a hot stick, and especially the 2:00 start on Friday. You have the 4:00 start yesterday. Then you have the 1:35 start today. I thought we were going to see Connor Wong today, personally, especially with the hot stick. Maybe use that to your advantage, or even pinch hit, which I cannot believe I'm saying live and on air. But that was a surprise to me.
I think it's because last year he caught Brian Bayo almost every start. That will be tomorrow. We'll get into that soon. But yes, I kind of agree with you. If you're going to use Connor Wong, you might as well use him while he's the hottest batter on the team. You should have used him in a couple of spots. I thought we would use him today. Brent said here today, who's still watching, that we'll probably see him tomorrow. I agree with Brian Bayo on the mound. That's when we'll see him. But yeah, that's my only thoughts on Wong. I do want to get into Ranger Suarez today, which I'm very disappointed about this. The Red Sox got off to a 4-0 lead. Finally, the Red Sox get up to a big lead. And then Ranger Suarez just gives it right back in the 4th inning. He starts off the first 3 innings. He looks very good. He was let down by an error by Trevor Story. But in the 4th inning, he kind of lets it all unravel. He gets hit hard. I know you have a stat that you wanted to talk about. I'll let you take over from here. But Ranger Suarez has 2 bad starts to open his Red Sox career. Are you worried about him? Do we just need to let it settle in? I thought he looked good to start, and then it just let it all unravel. So I am a little bit worried about him. But I know you had a stat you wanted to bring up. I'll let you get into it.
Yeah, the stat that Nick's referring to is actually from Johnny, who's also a co-host here on the show. He actually mentioned that the Red Sox have allowed the last 8 times the Red Sox have scored a run, they have allowed at least 1 run the following half inning to the other team. When we score runs, we let out those runs immediately. It's a very interesting stat to think about too. But that is a direct reflection of our pitching. And that's not only starting pitching or our bullpen, but a combination of both. In terms of Ranger, first off, I want to give him his credit, right? He looked like a Gold Glover today on those 2 comebackers. Those 2 comebackers, you blink and you're like, where'd that ball go? And then he fielded them cleanly. That was like the only true upside to Ranger. This is now 2 starts in a row with very rocky performances with very, very limited length, right? He only went 3+ innings today, right? He didn't make it out in the 4th, if I remember correctly. That's just not acceptable. That's not acceptable.
He couldn't get out of the 5th. He didn't get it out in the 5th.
You're right. They brought him in for their 9th hitter in the 5th and let him on and then was replaced. Thank you. That is just not acceptable for what was our number 2 starter that we're paying all that money to. Just completely unacceptable. And again, we've been seeing this through the World Baseball Classic, through spring training, through game, his first start of the season, and now game 2. Where do you go from here? Where? I mentioned it before. He's not a strikeout pitcher, but still he was letting up the hard contact after the first 2 innings. Where do you go from there? It's tough.
You still have to give him opportunities, obviously. You gave him $130 million. I just hope he works through it. His stuff is fine. The velocity's not down. It's just he's getting hit hard. The first 3 innings, I was actually impressed with it. It all unraveled. Was it his second time through the order type of thing? It might have been. You don't know. But I am excited to see him next time. If he doesn't turn it around soon, I'm going to get really worried. But it was very cold. It was very bad weather today that could have contributed to it. So we'll see with Ranger Suarez. Do you want to get into how Tyler Uberstein pitched today? I was very impressed in his first 2 innings. I actually had a tweet brought up. I had it drafted up. I was going to praise him for his major league debut. And then Alex Cora unfortunately had to bring him back out there for a third inning, was it? And he got through like 2 1/3. That's a spot that Garrett Whitlock normally would have been in. He's obviously out on paternity leave. He'll be back tomorrow night. But Tyler Uberstein in his major league debut, do you have anything you want to talk about him? It's a great story, but he's not the guy you want out there in the 8th inning of a tie game, obviously. It's just unfortunately that it happened to him, but right now the Red Sox don't have the ammo to go out there against that Padres bullpen, which is one of the greatest of all time, really, if you think about it.
Absolutely. Yeah, neck to neck. Yeah, we can't hold a candle to that bullpen. Uberstein, though, I was super hyped for him to make his debut today. I was hyped for when he was called up, and I think that he delivered in almost every way possible. Yes, he did let up the one homer to Merrill, and was extended. I thought after the second inning of his work, he was going to be done. I was surprised to see him out there for the third, like you mentioned, Nick, but not having Whitlock, man, that's just, it sucks that it's like Whitlock or bust. It really is. But Uberstein, some quick numbers here. He had 8 whiffs, which I thought was really impressive through, again, 2 2/3, I believe it was. He also had 9 first pitch strikes too. The guy was finding the strike zone. And again, he did everything that you wanted him to do for a major league debut. I'm glad he could do it in front of his family. It took him a while to get that first strikeout, but again, his numbers were there. He went in, and again, like we've been saying, 2 innings of strong work. I would have loved to see them go to someone else for that last inning there, for him at least. And then we know what happened for the rest. But overall, very promising. Again, kind of what we saw in spring training from him too. It's a great, solid option. We mentioned this in the preseason episode too, when we're talking about minor league players that were going to make their major league debut this year and make an impact. I believe it was either James or someone that brought up Uberstein as a possible candidate to be a big impact. And for game 1 for him, very happy to see.
Yeah, I think it was really important to bring him up because with Whitlock returning tomorrow, I think he'll be the odd man out. He threw a lot of pitches today, of course, almost going 3 innings. He'll be the guy out, and we won't see him for a while. But it was really nice to see that he could compete in the major leagues. He belongs, and we'll see him again probably really soon once his time is done, or if we have another injury, he might be back soon. But I was happy to see him. Unfortunately, Cora had to push him for 3 more, an extra inning more than he should have, but Tyler Uberstein, congratulations on your major league debut. Nothing more to say. We'll see you again soon. If you want to get into the next series against Milwaukee, one of the best teams in baseball, they're 7-2, the leaders of the National League Central. We will be seeing them Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Game 1, it's Brandon Woodruff against Brian Bayo. Do you want to just go game by game? I know this one it's going to be a tough one with one of the best teams in baseball, a team that won almost 100 games last year. I think it was 99 games they won. Another good team, a team that's going to be great all season, a team we didn't play well last year. We got swept. And unfortunately, I thought we had to sweep the Padres to have a good outlook going forward, especially with this team coming in. But now we really need to play well against the Brewers. Let's get into game 1.
Absolutely. And the key with this matchup is going to be our pitching. The Brewers had the second most runs scored in baseball this year. I believe they have 60 runs scored before today. I believe it was just behind the Astros. And we saw how that Astros series went. It's tough facing technically the best offenses, in your first 4 series of your season. But again, that's going to be the name of the game. Thankfully, we have Crochet for game 2. It's kind of our middle point, right? But I think this entire Brewers series is going to be almost like I think all eyes on Breslow, right? There's a lot of pieces that were swapped. There's a lot of things to harp on. Obviously, Durbin's been Durbin that we've all seen so far. A lot to be riding on this series in terms of the outlook toward Breslow, in my opinion, as rightfully so. In terms of actual pitching, Bayo at home, it's cold. We'll see what happens. And with Woodruff, it's like I almost want to break it down, but at the same time, it's like it's hard to do when we almost know what to expect from our bats. I don't want to be some Debbie Downer, but just start swinging the bats, start making competitive at bats. I don't care if it's Woodruff or Mizorowski. You got to make competitive at bats, work the pitch count, get to that bullpen early, and that's gonna be my answer for all these pitchers. I don't mean to like give like a big spoiler alert, but It's crazy. You know, it's crazy to be sitting here going into Milwaukee, or letting Milwaukee come to us, and we're not even saying like how can we approach each pitcher, but more so can we approach each pitcher.
I like what you said about Breslow a few minutes ago. I'm very happy we're not going to face Kyle Harrison this series. He pitched today, and he pitched very well. He's had 2 very good starts to start his Brewers career. I just could see him shoving it up our asses if he faced us and just making Breslow look even worse. Ken Santos also brings up Tibbs. I think that means Blaze Jordan, who's also going off in the minor leagues. But that Tibbs and Harrison trade, those 2 trades even right now are making that Devers trade look even worse. I don't want to talk about Tibbs. He looks like an absolute superstar. If you want to talk about him, we can, but I don't really want to. It'll just make me upset.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm just very happy we're not facing Kyle Harrison. I just know it'd be something that everyone on Twitter will be talking about, harping up this matchup of Kyle Harrison shoving it up our butts. And I know I would be too. I'd be one of the guys saying that this can't happen. I'd be very upset if it did happen. So I'm just happy that it's not a scenario that we can actually happen. Kind of like Quinn Priester last year. We're not going to see Quinn Priester. We're not going to see Kyle Harrison. And that's my biggest takeaway of these 3 games is I'm very happy that's not going to happen.
Yeah, a lot of damage, a lot more of an embarrassing matchup could be, could have been the case. We face Mizorowski, and that's going to be. I can't wait to see that Crochet versus Mizorowski. I mean, 2 of the very best. I know we're moving on to game 2 real quick here, but that's the game that I am looking forward to the most. I'll be there in person. I cannot wait to see those 2 battle it out.
Let's give a prediction for game 1, and then we'll get into that one.
Yeah,
I like that.
Yeah, for sure.
Well. I'm going to give a prediction. I think we lose game 1 with Bayo on the mound. Brandon Woodruff's really good. I know he's been injured he's been very injured the last few years, but Brandon Woodruff has the stuff to go out there and dominate a lineup that's been very bad to start the season. Unless today was something that jolted the Red Sox in a loss where they scored 6 runs and the offense is finally breaking out. I don't think that happened. I think they just they put a few good swings together and they're just, I don't know. I don't think they're going to go out there and win tomorrow. Brayan Bello, I don't know what the weather is, but I don't think he's going to perform in bad cold weather. I think this is a game we lose, unfortunately. And it's a game the Red Sox should win because 2-8 in the first 2 games, in the first 10 is absolutely unacceptable no matter what. I know in any 10-game stretch late in the June and you're around 500, it doesn't look as bad. But when it starts the season, you put yourself in the hole. It can't happen. So I think the Red Sox do lose, but it's almost up there in a must-win game. It's a can't-lose game.
Absolutely. And the energy leaving the ballpark today, too, was exactly as you mentioned. It was pathetic. You almost forget that we scored 6 runs. It's almost like we forgot the fact that the 4 runs, and I know we're harping on this game, but it is completely forgetting the fact that we had a 4-run lead, the largest lead we've had all season. All of that was just wiped away with the loss today. So I don't, Debbie Downer, I know, but I don't expect that energy to be carried over to tomorrow. Hopefully we come in with a fresh slate, and there is just like this idea of we're professional baseball players. We can beat any team in the majors and go in there swinging. But in terms of the game 1 matchup, just looking at some numbers here too, Woodruff, Contreras actually has 19 at bats against him, is batting with a 100 or 105 batting average. It's like some of these guys are experienced against Woodruff. I'm not too thrilled with the idea of Woodruff going in there and just mowing us down. If we are going to harp on some matchup numbers too, Story does have 6 at bats against Woodruff with a 333 average too. So maybe we see Story turning around. I don't read too much of these I don't read into these matchups as much as other people, but if I want to have any kind of optimism going into that game, it's that Woodruff has been around the block a little bit. He has been injured, like you mentioned. Can we attack him early with smart ABs, knowing the strike zone, and competitive at bats, man? Just competitive at bats. That's the name of the game. And then Bayo, obviously, we'll see what Bayo does.
Yeah, I agree. I think it'll be a tough one for the Red Sox. We'll see. But I think it's a game they need to win and they need to turn it around, especially when you have a matchup in game 2. I'm really excited about this one. It's Jacob Mizorowski against Garrett Crochet. Garrett Crochet is coming off a clunker against the Astros, but I'm not worried about Garrett Crochet. The 4-seam fastball was a little bit down, but in this matchup, when the Red Sox have been horrible, Garrett Crochet has the mindset to go put everybody on his back and shove it up the Brewers' asses. The Brewers are one of the best hitting teams in the league, but Garrett Crochet is one of the best pitchers in the league. I think Garrett Crochet will bounce back and pitch very well. Now, the question is, will the Red Sox hit Jacob Misiorowski? We know he has one of the best fastballs in the game. He's one of the best sliders in the game. He has the best, or some of the most electric stuff we've ever seen from a young starting pitcher. But his issue is command. Will the Red Sox bail him out if he starts to lose his command? Will the Red Sox start swinging at the sliders, the sweepers, and the dirt? Will they start swinging at the fastballs that are in on their hands above their head? Are they going to do that and bail out Misiorowski? Or are they going to put up competitive at-bats that they don't normally do and they haven't been doing in the first 9 games? I'm very excited for this matchup. What do you think about this one? I know you really were excited about this one as well.
Yeah, like I mentioned, I'll be there on Tuesday. Super excited for like a pitching duel like that. And like you just said, Crochet is going to go in there, and I don't see any reason why he doesn't just shut the Brewers down. Right, obviously one of the best offenses in baseball, but it's Crochet that we're talking about, Cy Young runner up, and I have no problem believing in Crochet there. But like you mentioned, can we do anything against Misiorowski? I have a hard time believing that. We saw what they can do against elite pitching with against Mason Miller and the Padres bullpen and everything else, and just against an elite pitcher like Misiorowski. Yes, his control might be iffy, but we seem to expand the zone like crazy, and it doesn't play well into Misiorowski's arsenal either. So I'll be hammering the under for the run line on that game, but I just don't see. I don't see how we can pull that one off. Let's hope, for the sake of Crochet, that Crochet is able to get everyone fired up and our offense actually working, and something happens. I will say we lose that game 3-1. I'll say 3-1. Yeah.
Tuesday is shaping up to be a 1-0 win or loss. I completely agree. I mean, Jacob Misiorowski is disgusting. The only problem that he has is walks. If the Red Sox can kind of lay off and make his pitch count go up, maybe the Red Sox get into the not so back end of that Brewers bullpen on Saturday, and maybe a rested Whitlock with new dad powers come in there and give you a couple more innings more than usual, and the Red Sox can steal one of these games. I would hope they steal game 2 and a Garrett Crochet start, maybe score a 1-0 game or a 2-0 win, like Brent brought up here. So if the Red Sox are going to take one, I'm going to give them game 2. I think they will win game 2, but I think they lose game 1, win game 2. A very close, low-scoring game like Brent brought up here, like you brought up as well. So we can get into game 3, or do you want anything else from game 2? I'm very excited for that pitching matchup, though.
Yeah, I think game 2 can go either way. I said 3-1. I said 3-2. It can also be 3-2 the other side, the other way, and yeah, excited for that matchup.
Yep. And then game 3, it's Chad Patrick versus Sonny Gray. I was very impressed with Sonny Gray's last outing. His ERA is at 4.50, so 4.5. But if you took away those 2 runs, it would have been way lower. I think his stat line is going to be like that all season. That's exactly how it was last year. His expected stats were way lower than his real ERA. Chad Patrick has a ERA under 1 so far this season, so I expect him to pitch well. This is a game that I think will be low scoring as well. I expect Sonny Gray to pitch well. I just think the Red Sox offense is just not going to do enough to go out there and win this game. I will go the Red Sox take 1 out of 3, but I'm not very confident about it. There's a chance they could get swept here. But I think they will lose game 1, take game 2, and lose game 3. But I'm not super confident about it. I'd like them to take more than that, but we'll see. Chad Patrick's a good pitcher. Sonny Gray's a good pitcher. Game 3 is a little bit of a toss-up, but I'm going to lean more the Brewers side here.
Yeah, if Sonny Gray didn't perform as well as he did in opening day, I would be looking at game 3 going like that. That's probably another L or another really tough matchup, right? But after watching Sonny Gray pitch at Fenway, there's so many different numbers to harp on both sides of this argument, but I would like to believe that Sonny Gray has his footing back into baseball, and he's back at Fenway. He seems to really like to pitch at Fenway, whether he has in the past, not in a Red Sox uniform or now in a Red Sox uniform. We'll see how that plays out. But yeah, like this, we are playing, the Red Sox are playing, 1 and 2 records in a 3-game series type of baseball. I expect the same exact kind of level of output here in this 3-game series against the Brewers. Again, give me 1 out of 3 games like yourself. I will say that we take game 3 out of the series.
Game 3 could be a toss-up as well. I mean, best case scenario, I think they win 2 out of 3. I hope the Red Sox surprise us and they come out here, the bats kind of wake up, everybody starts clicking on all cylinders, and they can rattle off a 5-6 game winning streak and get back to 500. And we'll stop talking about this narrative that the Red Sox are going to be an awful team. But right now, they're one of the worst teams in the league, and they need to flip the script really, really quickly. Do you have any final thoughts about this episode? I think it was a great one. Unfortunately, the Red Sox haven't played well this weekend, but I'm still going to be watching every game. But any final thoughts, Will?
Something needs to happen. Something needs to happen. Yeah, we're 9 games into the season and it's still early, et cetera, et cetera. Something needs to happen. We need to find a leader. There has to be a spark or something. Everyone seems to be playing almost, I don't want to say selfish baseball because it's not selfish baseball, but they're playing for themselves. It seems like there's no coherence. There's no like rhyme or rhythm to the lineup and how we're playing. Everyone's kind of doing this and that and here and there and ups and downs. There's no real rhythm to the team. Something needs to happen. It's not just a string of bad games now. It's a pattern. It's a habit, and it's something that needs to be broken ASAP. We need to find a leader, and something needs to happen. This Brewer series seems like a great series to do that. We're at home. It's still April, early April. Let's do it. What that spark is going to be, I don't know. Maybe fight someone. Maybe, maybe come in all suits. Maybe we saw Judge do that with the Yankees, right? Like maybe come in all suit attire. Who knows? Something has to happen. AC needs to step up, be that player manager that we know that he can be and that he was advertised, and get this team right. Right the ship.
My final thoughts are: don't get swept. After this Brewers series, you have 2 bad teams in the Cardinals and the Twins after that. And hopefully you can get on track and beat those teams up and get as close to 500 as you can. Find a way to win a game. I think you have 2 winnable games in the last 2. Garrett Crochet, anytime he's on the mound, you have a chance. Hopefully he bounces back and the Red Sox have a chance to win that one. And in game 3, Chad Patrick's pitched well to start the season, but I think the Red Sox, just if you put him on paper against Sonny Gray, I think he gives you a chance to win. But don't get swept is my final thought. Give them a chance against these bad teams coming up in the Cardinals and the Twins. And if they don't play well against them, you can start making very, very, very bad assumptions about this team going forward in 2026. Thank you guys for watching Fenway Finale. We are now offered on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Thank you for watching us live on YouTube and Twitter. We'll be back tomorrow night. Thanks for watching, guys. More coming soon. See you again soon.